So hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Mine is a Comment. My name is Wanjiru Nguhe and Mine is a Comment is a podcast that brings women together and non-men so that we can talk about our lives and we can talk about beliefs, practices and decisions and how they sit in our lives. And it has also now become a platform where I amplify and I invite feminists to amplify the work that they're doing and the revolutionary work that they're doing. So thank you very much for joining me. And I hope that you are continuing to mask up, you are sanitizing. I hope that you have gotten vaccinated or you are planning to get vaccinated. It's very important. We are still in a pandemic porridge situation. So I hope that we're remembering to mask and sanitize and keep our social distance. Thank you very much for joining me. And again, my name is Wanjiru Nguhe. So today I am joined by a friend of mine, and her name is Sophie Otiende, and she's here today. And today we're going to talk about human trafficking. We're going to talk about what it means to survive human trafficking. We're going to talk about what it means to heal from human trafficking, and we're also going to talk about what care looks like, what support looks like, and how we as the community can come in to support people who are recovering and to also support her work. Thank you so much, Sophie, for coming and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very interesting way of introducing me. Wow. I'm in shock.
So Sophie is a feminist. You are also a teacher. You are a survivor and advocate for survivors of trafficking. And you are also the founder of a survivor-led initiative, the only survivor-led initiative in Kenya called Azadi. And it focuses on supporting survivors of trafficking with long-term care and leadership skills.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would love to add?
No, you've done well.
Oh, yeah.
We do a lot of things. That's a summary.
That is a summary. No, for real. Like she does a lot of things. So earlier on, before we started shooting, we started talking about human trafficking, and I was telling you that we really don't have an idea. When we talk about human trafficking, we really don't know what it's about. So I think the first thing I will ask is, when you talk about human trafficking and when we talk about being a survivor of human trafficking, what is that?
I think this is where trafficking is a complicated issue because I feel like part of the problem is how trafficking is defined, is that it's so complex. Like if I show you the definition of trafficking, you'll get tired, especially sisi watu tunapenda kusema kizungu mingi.
The English is a lot.
The definition of trafficking, the English is a lot.
Yes.
It's definitely a lot.
Yeah.
But for me, I like to summarize and say it's basically the sale of people for the purpose of exploitation. It's basically treating someone like you own them. And which is, you see it whether you're talking about labor trafficking, you're talking about sex trafficking. It's that someone is intentionally using someone like they would use like an object, a tool, or that. They have no freedom. It's freedom being completely taken away from you. It's loss of agency, complete loss of agency. So that's the definition in a nutshell.
Okay.
For survivors, I think the definition is a bit different because when you've gone through something, trying to explain that and put that in words can be a bit difficult because going through abuse leaves you with this, I call, legacy of trauma that you are carrying around. So I think most survivors just see trafficking as exploitation. So it's exploitation through sex, through labor, through,
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you for that. So let's, you have an organization, you have founded an organization called Azadi Kenya. So let's talk about the work that you do with Azadi Kenya and why this work is so important to you personally.
So I think those who know me, I've been in the trafficking field probably for the past 7 years and are working with different organizations, grassroots organizations, mainly offering like direct support services to survivors of trafficking. If you know me and know my politics, I'm a feminist. I really don't believe in like people starting individual initiative. Not that I don't think there's space for it. Like I'm the sort of person who starts with, is there somebody else doing this? Because that's my politics. Is there somebody else doing this? And can I join them?
Yes.
And can I offer support? And I think for the past 7 years, it was really, there were people who are already doing like the frontline work that was needed. And so for me, then it became, I went through this process of learning, especially as a survivor, someone who's gone through trafficking.
Yeah.
And trafficking is a unique field, especially for our feminists. It's so unique because trafficking is just filled with white men who tell you everything about your things. Like the people who, you see, it's like, what are the example I like giving is, think about this. Think about if all women rights organizations were led by men, what sort of outrage there would be, right?
Yes.
So trafficking in general does not have survivors in leadership position, working in the industry, or leading or educating any of the work. If you look at the history of like trafficking, most of what we see right now is white people, and I'm not saying that with good intentions. It always starts there. With good intentions, really living their white saviorhood through the process. So there's a lot of, we want to save them. It's black and brown women being rescued from this horrible condition. It's a nightmare. It's the worst of all crimes, right? So if you look at, even right now, if you Google trafficking, what you will see is video upon videos of mainly white men rescuing brown and black women or brown and black children.
Okay.
And most of them, that essentially means that when you think about like recovery, when you think about activism and all the things and interventions, it's always from the point of view of people who haven't really been through it.
Oh, yes.
So for me, in starting Azadi, it was about centering the voices of survivors who've gone through it, who understand what it actually means. When I talk about prevention, when I talk about like trauma, I'm not talking about it as some theory, you know,
or something you read somewhere.
Or something I read, right? I'm not talking about that. When I talk about like trafficking, I talk about it as something that I experienced, that I went through. You know, it's me remembering as a 13-year-old being completely helpless and without agency and going through abuse and not even knowing, questioning, like, how is it that people can allow this to happen to me as a 13-year-old back then? I asked myself, like, how is it that people can allow for me to be in pain and not do anything? So for me, it was bringing that voice into the work that we are doing. And not just bringing that voice, also bringing a feminist outlook, because trafficking, the way trafficking is addressed right now, does not align to feminist principles. It's not intersectional, does not think about like vulnerabilities like gender, disability, sexuality, does not, that kind of analysis is not in the space. So for me, starting Azadi was bringing that into the space.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. There's a lot we don't understand about human trafficking, and that's, I think, the first thing I said. So as a Kenyan community, what is it that we need to know about human trafficking? Like, what do we need to look out for so that you understand that this is a human trafficking situation? If we don't take care, then this will become a human trafficking situation. What do we need to look, like, what are the things we need to know and look out for with regard to prevention and even just making sure that it doesn't happen?
So I always say, it's, again, my teacher brain. You start from the known to the unknown.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Most of us right now, when you think about trafficking, the first thing that comes to mind is...
Me, I think of Libya, the men who were in Libya. That's the first thing I think of. Men in chains and in a dark room.
Yes, so Middle East.
Yes.
So most of us, when we think about trafficking, we think about people who are on the move, going somewhere, they're being abused, they're in chains and all that, because that's the picture basically has been painted right now. In reality, that's just a very small section of trafficking. Trafficking occurs in many different ways. So that's one form. Like labor trafficking is very common. It's common and it appears in many ways. It's what we are saying. The women and men are being promised work in the Middle East. There are documents being taken and then they're abused either for labor, for sex, and all those different things. That's one. But the question that I normally ask many people, because I'm in my 30s, and I always ask many people, most of us lived with a relative in our houses, right?
Okay.
When we were younger, who was probably slightly older than us or our age and was taking care of us. And most people will say yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Those relatives never used to go to school, right?
Yeah.
And they were taking care of us, right?
They're your cousins.
Yeah, they're your cousins.
From the village.
From the village. They're poor. We are helping them.
We are helping. And we're sending their salary back to their parents.
To their parents. We're not even sending salaries. We're just giving gifts. Let's not call it. Like we're giving the mother a gift.
Appreciation. We are taking care of your child.
Yeah, we are taking care of your child. Yes, here's something small for him. So many of us can be able to say that that's a reality. All those relatives of yours that were in your house were trafficking victims. All of them. Because that's a form of trafficking. It's domestic servitude. Yes, it is domestic servitude. Some people right now have decided, for example, that girls from Uganda offer cheap labor. And here we come and start talking about our feminist politics and care work and domestic work, right? And how do we navigate? Because those are some of the issues that even as a feminist, we think about it like, you're a cleaning lady, or we don't think about that. Like right now, there's an influx of Ugandan girls in Nairobi. Everyone knows, working as domestic workers.
And I like that you said girls, because if they're under 18...
Yes, I used girls intentionally.
Very deliberately, yes.
Deliberately. I did not say women.
Women, it's girls.
Because most of them are girls. We want to unsee the fact that they're girls.
They're children,
yes. We want to unsee it, and we want to call them women so that we can unsee. Because most of us won't even ask for documentation, won't ask for all those details. You'll just say, I want someone to work for me, right? Yeah. And then you'll say, I have...
And then we use words like mtumzuri, hana maneno mingi.
By the way, Ugandans hawana maneno mingi. Wachana na wa Kenya. Kenyans are, they're too loud. They
want too much.
Yeah, and we don't question why. We actually want submission. Why would you want submission from someone?
Because you want to exploit them.
Yes. You want to exploit them. You want to use them. You want that if you abuse them, they'll keep quiet.
They won't bring maneno mingi.
Yes, they won't have a way to complain. And those, now I'm talking about like the elements that would basically make you asking me like, how does a situation move to exploitation? Is that I have no voice? Is that if you did anything to me, there's no way I would complain? I can't be able to run away, right? Is that I'm vulnerable enough? I'm in a foreign country with probably no language to navigate the system.
Oh my God.
So my life is literally, and survival is literally dependent on you. And we don't think about that when we think about, and then you think that, if I give them 5,000, it's enough, right? Most of the girls, the Ugandan girls that are coming, are actually sold in an almost slave market situation. They're mostly from Karamajong. They're literally sold in an almost, and I mean slave market, where parents bring their girls and they're sold to Kenyans who actually bring them here. And then the money you pay them, that money goes to different people, doesn't go to them.
It doesn't, what?
So even asking yourself, like, I have a Ugandan house help. Can they, what is their right to be able to work here? What's the process? What's the immigration process?
What is the immigration status? Yeah.
It's not a question we ask because I'm looking for convenience of having a house help that is quiet, won't bother me.
And is always available 24/7.
And is always available consistently. Won't have to ask for leave, by the way.
Because where are they
going? Does not have family members.
Yeah.
So
they don't even understand the language. They just know letter, chukua, shika.
It's that. So that's trafficking here and how it looks like. You go around and we are here. Sema boxes on Riverside Drive, right?
Yes.
On Riverside Drive.
Yes.
If you, right now when I passed, you saw that normally beggars, right?
Yeah.
Kids being pushed.
And they are selling things, or they are pushing someone on a wheelchair.
Someone is pushing them on a chair and everything. If you interview most of them, they're not Kenyans also. Most of them are Tanzanians. and they're brought in. People are making money off them. The money that you're giving out is somebody else is controlling it. Do we ask any questions? And
in fact, you see them and you immediately you pull up your window because you don't want to be robbed.
You don't want to be robbed. You don't want to deal with it.
You don't want to see it.
And again, with trafficking, and I'm just saying that fundamentally, when you think about trafficking and you think about slavery and you think about everything in general, there is nothing, absolutely nothing that we've created. This world we've created is on the backs of slaves. The phone you are carrying around and we are taking selfies and everything. There's a Congolese child somewhere in a mine right now that has never seen that phone, that worked so that those minerals could be put in your phone. The clothes you're wearing.
Oh, dear God.
Yes. The clothes you're wearing.
Yeah.
There's a Cambodian child in a factory right now, basically, probably dying so that you wear the clothes. So that when we have this conversation of buy Kenya, build Kenya, let's be serious about it, because it's also about clean supply chains that we know.
Yes.
So
and that you can follow up and hold
accountable. So it's everywhere. For me, the thing is, it's everywhere, and we're not talking about the fact that it exists everywhere. Nothing.
Because it actually exists everywhere.
Yes. Think about food. The food that you are eating. Think about coffee. Think about tea. Think about the workers that are there. What choices do they have?
What is even the power balance in their situation? Yeah.
So it's a serious issue, but because trafficking is one of those things that, because of how we like convenience, we can't have a conversation about it, because it would mean that all of us would have to be inconvenienced.
And the thing about convenience is we are uncomfortable with inconvenience. Yeah.
So we would have to be uncomfortable. The thing is, when people tell me about addressing trafficking, I'm like, are you ready to be uncomfortable? Come to me when you're ready to be uncomfortable.
No, we are not. We just want soft life.
Come to me when you are ready to maybe pay way more than you're paying for your phone. Come to me when you're ready to only have 10 clothes in your closet if you are a girl. Because, if you are a girly and you want to look fabulous.
We want to look fabulous on the gram. What do you mean?
Come to me when
we're actually serious.
Come to me when you basically, we are going to have a conversation about domestic work realistically and how much we should be paying domestic
work is where it's at. That is where the feminist movement crumbled. You can see the fault lines forming immediately.
Fault lines.
They are proper fault lines in the middle of the movement like this. Yeah.
And of course, there's sex trafficking. And come to me when we are willing to have like proper conversations about sex work, right?
Yeah, because we say sex work is work, but what is the actual work?
What does that look like? What does that look like in terms of protection? What does that look like in terms of ensuring that the system is fine? Because when we do the things that we are doing, of course, we are going to have children, girls, and women that are being abused.
Yeah.
Come to me when we want, like, one of the cases I dealt with a while back was a case of Nepalese women who are brought to Kenya to work in clubs here. They were trafficked for sex. Do you know what this guy was doing? The person who brought them here?
No.
Basically, this person was recruiting in hospitals, like critical care, like the diabolical sense to, one, know that it is girls and women that bear the burden of caring for sick family members, right? Let's be real. If we went to a cancer ward right now, how many girls and women would you find that are taking care of their families? It's not men that are there.
It's women who are there.
It's women who accompany their parents for dialysis, accompany their parents for operations,
for cancer and things.
It is the sense to know that, to think and know that, and know the frustration that if you've ever had a sick family member, you know the sheer frustration and desperation of a social protection system that doesn't care for you, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that this person could think that and go to Kathmandu and find girls in those situations and say, you know what, I'll pay for your dialysis. I'll pay for that chemotherapy and I'll give you work.
You will take it.
Yes. And then they take it, they come here. It's something else, right? Now it's not what you are coming to do. Your documents have been taken. You have no language. You have nothing. But then when those girls, and some of them are girls, when those women are rescued, you hear some of the comments that MPs and all these other people start talking about prostitution being bad manners. Like, the reason why work in the Middle East is bad is because
you are being
we bring in morality and the fact that it's people are going to become prostitutes, right?
Yeah.
So it's a whole framework, right? Built on several things.
Multiple layers of things.
Multiple layers of different things.
Yes. In fact, I was going to ask you about layers. Like, what are the different layers of harm? With, like, we're talking about gender. So for men and for women, we're also talking about women living with disability, because there's also another layer now of the disability. And we're also talking about the sexuality. Yeah. So we're talking about the queer people. We're talking about trans men and trans women. What does the layers of harm look like? So
let's start. First of all, a majority of the people that are trafficked are women, girls, and boys.
And boys, yeah.
So it's children and women in general. And that's because trafficking is about assertion of power. You have to think about that. When you think about it being an assertion of power, it means that it's the most powerless that are going to, in any scenario, it's the most powerless person that's going to be
trafficked.
To be trafficked, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, women, when you think about gender, it's women and girls that are mostly trafficked. The thing is, it's easy to see boys, but as soon as they become men, then identification of them becomes less, because again, of the way the system is, right?
Yeah.
We have a tendency of seeing, with the right evidence, right?
Yeah.
We have a tendency of being able to see women, identifying women as victims quickly than we can identify men as victims. But there are men who are victims.
Yes.
It's very different.
Yeah.
So women and girls. Then of course, when you think about the thing that's a bit different with trafficking is that you really need to be able-bodied to do most of the.
It's really slavery, because I'm just thinking about the auctions in the movies. In the movies,
so the thing is, when you think about like labor and everything, somehow you have to be able-bodied. But there are certain things that, of course, like forced begging is something that people with disability would most likely be trafficked for.
Yeah.
Then when you think about things like forced marriage, right? Forced marriage, how many queer people do you know that are in relationships as a result of being forced and coerced into it?
Yeah.
Right?
For their own safety and for survival.
And for survival, right?
Yeah.
So all those different forms come with like different like vulnerabilities. The fact that migrants, if you don't have documentation, right?
Yes.
It means that if you're in Kenya illegally, someone will use it against you to control you.
Yeah. Because there's nothing you can do.
Yeah,
are you going to call the cops?
Yeah,
I want you to call the cops.
Yeah,
please call them.
Please call the cops.
Please call them. Let us see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are so many layers of like vulnerability. And in every situation, you constantly have to ask yourself, like, who's the person with the least power here? And if you start thinking like that, then you know the people that are most likely to be recruited are most likely to be abused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. Okay. Now, you run a survivors, like your organization is led by survivors, but what does surviving human trafficking look like? Like when we say you're a survivor of human trafficking, what are we saying? Like what does that look like? What does surviving human trafficking do to you as an individual?
I think it's one of those things, right? Survival of trafficking, especially having spoken to you about what the system looks like.
Yes.
One, surviving trafficking means not being believed. it means that, you see, unlike maybe survival of like gender-based violence, where it's easy to define and see things, survivors of trafficking basically have to convince people that, you even have to convince people that you're a survivor. So one, survivors of trafficking don't get identified. You don't get to self-identify. It means not being believed. It means being blamed and sometimes held accountable for your choices, because like in most cases, it's like, but you knew this situation was dangerous. How did you get into it?
But if you don't have the power, how do you get into it?
But you see, you with your feminist brain, I hear you are thinking about power. How many times have we said, have we blamed the parents of the children that are rescued? How many times?
All the time, actually.
Many times, right?
Yes.
All the times.
Yeah.
We never analyze that these are poor parents. They could have been controlled. We never think about those things, right? It's like, oh, people should be good parents, right?
Some of you don't deserve children.
And it's like this random, wonderful idea out there that we're not even breaking down. What does it mean to be a good parent in a society that has zero social protection system, that has that where you are poor, where being poor is almost illegal. Like, we don't say it here in Kenya, but to be honest, be poor is illegal. Like, please be rich.
Whatever you do, please make sure you're not
for
poor.
Whatever purpose. When we are choosing roles,
however you come upon riches, just come upon them.
When we are choosing roles, please make sure you choose rich, because otherwise survival is dependent. So we don't think about all those things. So to survive trafficking right now is to be blamed for your own abuse. To survive trafficking is to have people be experts of your healing, to listen to people say, talk about random things about trauma, and you think, but that's not what it's true. It's not it. So most survivors of trafficking right now find healing by themselves, find healing in, in groups, in families, in community, in talking to people, in navigating trauma by yourself, right? And that's why for me, community is so important and fundamental, because for me, that's where I found healing. No one came to rescue me. No one took me to a trauma therapist when I was 13. My parents could not afford a therapist. They couldn't.
Wow.
Absolutely couldn't. And most parents cannot afford therapy.
As good as they are,
as wonderful parents as they are, they cannot afford therapy. They cannot afford the services required to navigate healing in the system right now. So we have to go back to what are some of the things that the community has that you can use to actually navigate healing. We talk to each other, we laugh, music, dance. Those are the things that, even at Azadi, I want to focus on. I want to focus on the ways that we navigated healing before. In fact, it's very difficult. Most African language don't have like trauma as a word. We have healing, we have all this, but
we
trauma,
have wholeness,
it doesn't
even we have pain.
We have pain.
We have pain,
which I think rightly so. Trauma is pain. Rightly so. We should have a word for...
We have pain, but we don't have trauma.
Trauma, yes. Because it just complicates a lot of things. It's bound. So I want to look at the ways in which we were healing in community before we thought about all these things. And it's great that we also have all these things. But it's not, some of these things are not sustainable, right? Even when we are working at our optimum best, we'll never have enough psychologists to see all of us.
That is true,
We never will. And it's a reality. So how do we navigate that through community? And it's something I'm still discovering.
So you've talked about healing as an individual, and I think I was going to ask, what does that healing look like? And what are the stages of healing? So you've just been, I don't use the word rescued, but you've just
been taken out.
You've been taken out of this situation,
So many people, those who go through like the official system, will go through like rehabilitation, right? Where maybe they've been placed in a shelter, they are getting these direct services, they're going through it. You're probably experiencing, actively going through trauma. You're very what we would say present trauma symptoms, right? You are suicidal or something. For most people, that's what they go through.
The suicidal.
The thoughts, depression, PTSD, all of it. So there are people who go through that. But interestingly, that's something else that we don't talk about a lot, is how trauma is cultural, right?
Yes.
Like we translate trauma very differently culturally.
Yes.
So some of the survivors that you even take out of situations don't have like the trauma symptoms very evidently.
No, yes. Like the people we look for, like a perfect survivor, we expect you to behave
we
like
expect
this.
you to be angry. We expect you to be crying. We expect you to be all those things.
Be violent. To be violent. If we touch you, you flinch. Yeah.
No, it's not that.
It's not that for everyone.
It's not that for everyone. It's really not that for everyone. Like, I didn't present like symptoms or active symptoms of trauma maybe until like 5 years after my experience.
Okay. So there was taught somewhere.
Yeah, I completely dissociated. So there are people who dissociate. Yeah. So for me, it was like this happened to somebody else. And I'm continuing with my life.
You're fine.
Me, I'm fine.
You're fine.
I'm absolutely 100% fine.
Look at how strong you are. And then we are going to look at you and say, wow, Sophie is strong.
She's so
strength
strong.
Of a woman. May we know them. May we raise them.
Yes,
strong women.
By the way, may we know them. May we raise them. May we be them.
May we be them.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. So, absolutely no. So anyway, the fact that we go through that and then for me, it took like 5 years for me to start even being suicidal. And I was suicidal. The reason why I ended up becoming suicidal is because I went through an attempted rape situation, and then it just opened.
It took you back.
It took me back.
Your brain unlocked things it had locked.
It completely unlocked new things.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. When we deal with trafficking in a silo as a thing and not think about, like, for example, if I'm talking to a trafficking survivor who is a girl in Kenya, I can't speak about it outside gender-based violence. I can't speak about it against the harassment that they're going to face consistently every day.
Yes.
So knowing that might trigger them, that might open something in their brain. So it's, again, it's when people talk about like stages of healing, we find a way to cope.
Yeah.
But I think you can only get to that like stage if we're putting you in a world with free of abuse.
Like, I have removed you from this pot and then I've taken you to another pot and then I've transferred the entire to another place.
Because the abuse doesn't change, right? For most of the people that go through trafficking, it's just one. So we talk about polyvictimization, where it's like someone goes through like multiple forms of abuses and trafficking is just one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the case of many survivors of trafficking, is that even in their healing, after they get out, their recovery process might just look like them becoming gender-based violence victims or going through something else. I know that I sound very hopeless.
No, but then but if we have a culture that is a gender violence culture, then you will come from one aspect of violence into another aspect of violence into another
and that's why violence. I don't want to talk about healing like being like a continuum, because it can't happen like that.
Yeah.
It can't happen. Ideally, it should.
Yeah.
You should go through like getting out, rehabilitation, and then thriving, right?
Yeah, and a community accepts you, and a community conspires.
It should happen like
your
that.
Prosperity, yeah.
But I'm sorry, you live in Kenya, and you live in
a deeply
violent and traumatized state. You live trafficking, most likely you are going to another situation of trauma. So healing can only come if we then build these pockets of community that surround a person and protect that person so that they have time to like breathe
at least recover from one thing before another thing is thrown in my face.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This is hard because I'm just like, oh man, you can't seem to catch a break. You can't just, okay. So you talked about navigating the healing on your own before even the community can come in. When you admit to yourself that you're a survivor, like you know within yourself, I have survived this thing. How does care look like at that personal level? Despite I know, like, because now we've introduced
so we've introduced care. Yeah. How does care look like
to you personally, like as a survivor? How do you care for yourself?
How do you care for yourself? I think, and this is the thing. It's what are the spaces that you can find rest? I'm a huge advocate of people resting. I'm a huge advocate of people finding places where they can breathe. Because some of these things, it's just you within yourself knowing, and I would say starting by knowing that this is not your fault.
Okay.
Dealing with that.
Very important.
Really important. Really taking that blame and shifting it to the right person.
Yes.
Who is the abuser, right? Or if the system is the one that is abusive, being able to point out and say that is the system that is abusive and it's not my fault. So that's, for me, I would call that as one of the most empowering things that any survivor could do is get out of that place of self-blame and then finding a support system. And that looks different. For some people, it's their children. For some people, it's a partner. For some people, it's finding spaces where you can still be yourself, where that trauma isn't the only definition that you have, because that's something else. We really like giving survivors the identity of victims and then wrap them up in this cloak of victimhood forever.
And then you get upset that they're actually
behaving like
claiming
victims.
The victimhood.
Yes. It's like we wrap them up in a cloak of victimhood and then blame them for behaving
for moving in the energy that we have given to them. Yeah.
So I think also just recognizing that that's not the only identity you have.
Yeah.
It's not. Like, it's one. And that's why for me, really, and I told you this earlier on, that for me saying that I'm a survivor advocate was a protest. A protest is a stand in saying, I have multiple identities. And the trauma that I've gone through actually dictates part of who I am, but it's not all that I am. I am all these other things.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, trauma radically changes you. It changes your body, it changes the way you think, it changes the way you navigate your relationship. And not admitting that it actually changes us, for me, feels like part of the problem. You know? And not accepting that the 13-year-old, for me, the 13-year-old that was, and the 13-year-old that came out of that situation are two very different people.
Yeah. And you have to be different people because every part of you requires a different part of you to even heal and thrive. Yeah.
So just that, like also recognizing that it's not your only identity. And then looking around you and just finding ways to be happy. Because you can still find happiness.
Deliberate joy. Today I will be happy.
Yes. It's not, and also actively seeking care, right? Because I think one of the things that we've also done with institutionalized care is that we've made the responsibility of care. We've shifted the responsibility of care to service providers. So NGOs and everything act on behalf of victims and survivors. Which sounds great.
Yeah.
But in practice, at the end of the day, most NGOs will tell you the truth. As someone who's worked for NGOs, they only have support for that survivors for 3-6 months. And I know Njeri Muigu was here discussing care.
Yes.
Njeri will tell you, there's no money, right? And I'm sure she said, there's no money. Most organizations have money to take care of you for 3 months, 6 months, if possible.
Yeah. And even the safe houses, because there's so much going on, there are other people that need to also come in.
So can you quickly deal with your issue and get out?
Keep it moving.
Keep it moving to a jam.
Oh my God,
yes. And I wish that's the way trauma worked. It's not. So
because you can't tell trauma, where we are causing jam, finish up and
heal quickly. But the reality is, by taking away the responsibility, shifting that responsibility to NGOs and not to communities and survivors themselves, that's what we've done. It's that now everyone thinks that is only the responsibility of NGOs to navigate and take it. That's why we are not educating ourselves about mental health, right? Because if we truly had to take care of people who are traumatized in our communities, we would have to learn, right? We'd have to learn about mental health, we'd have to learn about coping, and would have to learn how to take care of people. We have learned how to nurse people with physical health.
Yes, but not.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
We have.
Yeah, even first aid, we were being taught first aid. You hold your nose when your nose bleeding.
We've learned. Yeah. So I think I'm a strong advocate that we can learn to take care of traumatized people in communities. We can.
All right.
We can.
We need to do that another episode. Caring for traumatized people. No, seriously.
Communities.
In a communities, yeah. So also, what does care look like now? Once the individual has accepted that this is me, I'm taking care of myself, but the care I'm giving to myself is not enough. How does now the community come in to care?
Yeah.
How do we now come in as a community to care for survivors and victims?
I think it's having spaces, right? It's having spaces where, let's say, survivors can connect and talk to each other. Because for me, one of the fundamental things that I always say trauma did, and this is me speaking from personal experience, is that it isolates you. It sort of makes you feel like, I'm the only one who's going through this.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who understands. No one else can understand
you
this
people
pain.
You don't know.
You people you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And I think, but for me, one of the most effective things was actually learning that I wasn't by myself, who didn't understand like what was happening.
Yeah.
So creating spaces where people can talk about this, can talk about the isolation, can talk about what it actually feels like. If you have someone who's traumatized, just giving room, 1 hour, 2 hours, let someone sleep. If it's sleep that's going to, we may complicate these things on care with, so many things, when sometimes it just looks like me saying, Wanjiru, today I'll come to your house, I'll help you clean because I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
I'll help you clean, I'll help you do this, and I'll take away the child so that you can have a few minutes, have a few minutes to rest.
Yeah.
It looks like that.
Yeah.
It looks like us thinking about things like music, enjoying music together. It sounds like a simple thing, but it's really important, right?
Yes.
For that, for a few 10, 15 minutes when someone is dancing and they're not thinking about
the realities
trauma,
that they have to deal with.
that they have to deal with.
Yes.
It also now at a policy level looks like us advocating for the fact that if we have district, county hospitals and everything, why don't county hospitals actually have mental health units? Why don't they
don't we have mental recovery centers?
Yes, why don't they? The fact that if you've ever had someone go through a psychiatric episode in these countries, when you will be angry. Because you can, if you are poor, you can only take them to Madari, and it is also not free.
Yes.
If you want to take someone, if you take someone with a psychotic episode, most hospitals charge around 27,000 to almost 50,000 a day to sleep in a bed in a psychiatric hospital, private.
And the way this country is moving,
most of us tuko kwa njia.
We are
on our way to those beds.
And not as a joke, because it's becoming really impossible to even just breathe in this.
So, and think about it. And I think many people, when we are shouting here, mental health, people think that it's for jokes. It's not for jokes.
Oh, we are trying to be relevant, and we are trying to
and we are trying to be woke. Those feminists and their wokeness.
And their Englishes.
Yes. The reality is that finding a bed is expensive.
Yeah.
How many of us have 1 million to spend?
Friend.
You have 1 million. You will spend 1 million. By the way, you will spend 1 million in a psychiatric hospital in this country, inpatient care.
There's no doctor who has seen you.
You've
not been prescribed.
No, first of all, it's just to get in. Most people charge 50 to 70,000 deposit that you pay upfront before someone is actually. Have you tried buying antidepressants in this country?
No.
Yes, you should. Look at the cost. It is expensive to be mentally ill in this country. Absolutely expensive. An evaluation is expensive.
Yeah.
So, you see, when we talk about therapy sessions, most therapy charge between 2,000, 2,000, a really good one. There's some who charge up to 15,000 for an hour, and people go. Because when you become sick, you have to do it. That's why this discussion of continuous care in community, it is now.
Yes.
We need to speak about now. How are we taking care of each other? How are we talking to each other?
Yes.
How are we being kind?
What are we holding? What level of care are we holding the government accountable to?
For?
Yes, because they are the result of a lot of our mental health breakdown. Yeah.
So it's not even just about survivors; it's about everyone. To be honest, because for me, if sub-county clinics had therapists and psychiatrists and all these people, they would reduce a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So also, when we are going to argue and fight for whatever we are fighting for in politics, we also need to ask them, what is your plan on this?
What is the math?
Yeah,
show us the working.
Yeah, show us.
Yeah.
Because mental health is health. It has to be part of public health.
Yeah. And it also has to be insured. And okay. So now back to your work with Azadi Kenya. How can we support your work?
Oh, how can you support? Please give me money. please give me money.
You will share pay bill number.
No. Please go to Azadi if you want to donate. One of the things that's very sad for me, and then I go back to this whole idea of community care. One of the things that's very sad for me is how the NGO complex and industry has made us as Kenyans think that only white people can support the work that people like us
people are doing, like the work we are doing for each other.
For each other.
Yeah.
So development work, care work is not paid by us. It's paid by other people. So I definitely hope I can get people that can support. Please go and look at our website, support. We've just found a physical space for a resource center. So please, if you have furniture, if you have cool ideas for things that we could do for the resource center, please come.
Yeah.
We are trying to train survivor leaders on different skills. Ethical storytelling is one of them. So anybody that wants to explore those things with us, please reach out. If you are ready to train survivors, if you can train, yes, please. Welcome and come. And please come correct. I'm a feminist. You see later. Yeah, I am absolutely serious. I will send you back with your help if you come with politics that doesn't make sense. I will educate you first.
And then if you're still not serious after education.
If you're not serious, you'll be sent away. I'm being very serious.
Okay.
Because as a feminist, it's also important for me that we bring dignity into the work that we are actually doing.
Yes.
So you're not coming to be a savior. You're actually coming to collaborate with us in
and
work.
To be part of a caring community.
Yes. That's what you're coming to do.
Okay.
You're not coming to save anyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the work you do.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for saying yes to this. I reached out to her in the DMs. Thank you. Thank you for
saying yes. And I said yes, and in 2 seconds I had a date and an appointment.
Listen,
you are very radical.
No, but here's the thing with women. If you're going into a woman's DM, don't waste her time. Say your name, say hi, say your name, and then say what you want. If she says yes, give her date quickly. We are busy.
Men. Please teach men. If you slide into people's DMs,
say what you want, and say it quickly.
Yes.
If you get a no, just keep it moving. On a jam.
Yes.
Yes. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming. I have loved this conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you so much. You are wonderful.
So now for my comment, I usually see people, whenever people are talking about, revolutionaries like Thomas Sankara, and people will ask questions like, oh, will we ever have a revolution in Africa? Is a revolution coming? And this is usually my response when I see those questions and when I see those comments, is that if you pay attention to the work that feminists are doing across this continent, the organizing work, the educating work, the caring work, if you pay attention to the work being done, not just in Kenya, but in Uganda, in Tanzania, the feminists are at work. Feminists are organizing, feminists are educating, feminists are building communities. If you look at that work, you will realize that the revolution has already begun. This revolution is radical. This revolution is relevant. This revolution centers care, and this revolution has already begun. So stop asking about when the revolution will come, who is the revolution, who is leading us. We are already here. The work has already begun. Find out what is being done, be a part of it, and don't come in, as Sophie said, as a survivor or as a rock star or as something like that. Come in because you want to be part of a community that cares and because you want to normalize care, right? Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for watching and for listening. Thank you for following and also for subscribing at the Mine is a Comment podcast on YouTube. Please continue to subscribe and continue to also share this work, share this video, and also follow me on Twitter at @Iam_Wanjiru. On Facebook, you will find me on Wanjiru Nguhe, and also on Instagram, you will find me on at Wanjiru Nguhe still. Thank you so much, and do have a lovely day, afternoon, night, depending on what time you're watching. Thank you.